a sound check?
Yeah, I guess they've already.
Just go ahead.
Oh, yep. Today's topic is who are Americans, and I am defining an American as anybody who happens to live in either the continental United States, any Hawaii, Alaska, or any of its territories. And this is just something, just a person actually living there. It has nothing to do with citizenship yet. And what are the commitments to the country of those people who are living in those American territories, and what is the country's commitment to them? We'll talk about these things, and eventually we may talk about a plan to citizenship. What is the, again, responsibilities and duties for education, health, safety, language, community, people in the community, how do they contribute? So we may as well just get going. Again, my definition is anybody who happens to be living in in the United States proper, or any of the territories that we have. So one of the things that I think commitments is there's certainly a two-way commitment, both of the individual to the country and its government, and the government to the individual. In terms of, let's say, in terms of taxes, every individual should be paying state and federal taxes, SSI, Social Security, and Medicare as a minimum, without exception. And nobody should be exempt from that unless that they don't have the income to pay for it. But if they're working, they are subject to those laws. Another thing is that every individual should have an absolute ID. Now, in many cases, that's their driver's license or something similar to that for citizens. People who are here also have green cards that they're not citizens, but even the people who are here, whether they're called illegally or undocumented, I believe that they should have an absolute ID, and simply having that ID doesn't get them thrown out of the country. It allows them to stay in the country and work productively, to contribute to the country as if they were a citizen, and they certainly couldn't vote if they're not a citizen, but in other respects they should have the rights and responsibilities. Being in the country should, quote, not be a free ride. Just get here and then you have a free ride. You have a responsibility to support yourself and participate in the community in some way or another. Certainly, there's education involved. There's health and safety involved. Again, that's also a two-way street. So those are just some of the things that I'd like to be talking about and getting ideas from all of you.
Just for clarification, are you suggesting that people who have been here for generations and generations need an ID card to prove that they are citizens?
I think that would be good. You know, again, people who have been here for generations, and if they can show that that they have been here for generations, that ID card should be easy to come by. You should be able to get it at any town hall, the town hall that you happen to be living in. It should not cost 1 nickel to produce. This is a responsibility of the government to the people who are living here.
So that means what you are saying is that anybody who has arrived here, whether legal or illegal, will, according to that, you said they should have a card.
Yes.
Although they don't have it this time.
Right.
But that card will then allow them certain privileges.
Yes.
The privilege is to right to work.
Absolutely.
But if you are
And to vote.
and
no.
but if you are an
No,
illegal,
no.
but if you are illegal,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah.
It's illegal. Okay.
If you are illegal, you do not have right to work. How does that jive then?
I don't think that's right.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's
I think that once you have the card that says, you know, you either have a citizenship card or a not a citizen, but you have a card, as long as you have that card, you have a right to work. And
This is the so-called green card.
no.
No.
It can't, no.
It's not the green card.
This is his what do you call
Okay.
it? Blue card. You call it blue card, right?
Yeah.
Blue card.
You call
Okay.
it,
Call
calls
it
it
a
blue
blue card.
Calls it blue
Yeah.
card. So
And so you have a right to work, and you also have a right to pursue the avenue towards citizenship, which is pretty much the normal way people would pursue that right. There's learning English. You must learn English. English is the language of this country. Now, lots of people speak many other different languages in this country, but the
Official business should be done in English.
yes,
I totally agree.
everyone should be able to communicate in English,
Right.
and therefore the government, the community, has the right and the duty to set up classes so that people can indeed learn English.
Okay.
It's not,
Go ahead,
and
I'm
it's not just English. If you have any idea of becoming a citizen eventually, you should also learn the civics. The civics is not being taught in the schools very much anymore, and I think it's really important to know how the government works, what the government is, what is the Constitution, what are the 3 branches, why are they different, and why are they separate but equal, and that kind of thing. So you should know, if you're in the country, you should know what the country is all about.
I totally agree with all of those requirements. But by the way, I don't know if you forgot or I don't know what, I'm a visitor here. My name is Pat, and this is Paul. And
Omanand.
Omanand. I always,
Yes.
Omanand. And our dear Margaret is here, for those of you who are tuning in. I was mentioning to Margaret earlier that I was amazed. I had occasion to interview Paul Conti, the superintendent of the school here. He claims that they are required to come up with enough teachers capable enough of teaching 43, this is at our high school, 43 different dialects. I don't think there would be languages.
But the key question there is, are they delivering content, course content in those languages, or is it just to facilitate their life? What is?
It depends on the level of the individual that comes, I think. Having been a language teacher, I would imagine, because they come in with all different levels of ability. So they must have a screening, and they find out that so-and-so is really difficult, is actually trying to communicate in their own language. So you have to get them out of and create it, like you said, create a context so that they can begin to learn English. Then there are those who have, because English is universal, it's everywhere. I'm sure that people even in the wildest parts of Africa or anywhere in the world, the Near East, the Middle East, Far East, they do hear because of communications, telecommunications. They pick up words in English.
Well, here is a tidbit for you. People who can speak English, the Mexicans come at the bottom, then followed by Central Americans.
Wait a minute, this is according to whom?
According to some
Source
Pew Research or something.
Okay, Mexicans are at the bottom with regard to being able to speak English.
Central Americans followed by Central Americans, followed by Asians, and followed by
going
Europeans.
up now.
We are going up. So
Okay.
at the bottom you got Mexicans,
Okay.
then Central Americans, Asians, then Europeans.
Yes,
So-
yes.
So that's
yeah.
the way it's going up.
Yeah.
So that means you have most difficulty, or most people who do not speak English are from Southern America or South America or,
That's
or
surprising.
Mexico.
When you have to say in America,
In America, well,
the South Americans,
yes. And so you have people from Europe or
yeah.
or sub-Saharan Africa
that's
who
because
speak English. That's what just
the English language is made up so much of Spanish, Italian, German.
Yes.
So they do have a little bit of a grounding. They have a running head start. But I think all of those points are very, very good, and I think they're required. And I think that I think the problem is sticking to them. To find to set up the agencies that are required to enforce that, which is probably difficult. I don't know if I don't know how efficient they are. Unfortunately, we have no way of. It seems as though there's so many different effects, adverse effects that come into play at so many different levels, and maybe it's a matter of not understanding. So it's good when we here can delineate those particular requirements to make an American.
There's obviously there are single point things that are astonishing when you hear them.
Yeah.
But like for instance, right here in Massachusetts, there's a guy who's been here for 15 years. He's married. He's got a teenage daughter. He came illegally 15 years ago from one of the Central American countries that if he goes back, he'll probably be killed. But because he's here illegally, even though he's been working for 15 years here, he's in an ICE prison right now, waiting to get exported back to his country.
This is someone you know? Someone
No,
you
no,
heard of?
he's in the news.
So this is the guy from who was working at MIT. Is that
Yes,
the guy?
yeah.
Yeah. I remember.
mean,
I heard about that too. Yeah.
That's,
I don't know.
See, I'm not sure in the past that we have made it clear enough to people who have come over to say these are the things that has to be done. And now there's so much fear about coming forward to say that I want to complete my citizenship. So I think a discussion like this will help others to come forward to say, I have learned how to speak English. I have been working for this amount of time. I have children now who are American citizens, and I want my citizenship. What do I need to do to go ahead and get this? It's important.
But to your point, actually, there are immigration laws on books right now that if you come in here with a visa, then you are out of state, because some people overstay. So if you overstayed for a certain number of months, then you are deportable right away.
Yes.
And then you can't come back for the next 3 years, I think. But if you stay out of status for a year or so, you can't come back for 10 years. But the question is, those immigration laws are not followed. So what happens that way if you do not have the enforcement, as you said? So what happens is the problem has become bigger and bigger and bigger.
Not only that, but how is that fair to those who have followed the rules?
That's what I was going to add. to
They
this.
have taken,
How does that?
they have waited,
Yes.
they have done everything, they've studied
Yes.
the language, they've applied it to everything. It's not fair to them.
Yes, it's not fair to them. That is
So-
the problem there.
Yeah. So what we're talking
Wait a
about
minute.
here is...
Why is it not fair to them? They have done all these things, and on the assumption that at the end they will become a citizen,
Yes.
and they do. So that's what they wanted, and that's what they're going to get.
So assuming... Go ahead, I'm
So
sorry.
therefore, what you're saying is just because somebody else did something differently, it's not fair to them.
No, you misunderstood. What I'm saying is that someone who follows this,
Yes.
delineate every bit of what you've delineated here, they can be said. This is the what do I want? The prototype. This is the okay. It doesn't refer to any particular individual. What I'm saying is that if they do that, then or if they don't do that, excuse me, if they don't follow all of those, then it's not fair to those who have followed all of those rules.
And that's exactly where I disagree with you. If the person who has followed all the rules and becomes a citizen, that's exactly what they wanted to do, and that's exactly what they got, right?
Now,
So
this
wait a
person...
minute, no,
Go
don't
ahead.
talk about somebody else. You know, this person has done what they wanted, and they have been rewarded. So,
I think we're not quite understanding one
oh,
another.
I understand you perfectly. What
Well,
you're
I'm saying
saying,
that
what you're saying is somebody else who is going around a different way,
No.
who may not become a citizen ever, is able to stay here.
Yeah, the way I worded it was simply take this, your format, this
Yep.
is required. And I said if they did not follow any one of those particular requirements, it's not fair for them to become, unless they fulfill everything on that, as opposed to an individual who has already gone through this whole process.
Well,
I think we're saying the same thing.
the other individual is not going to become a citizen, right?
Not unless he fulfills every bit of that.
We
right?
already have a very distinct way of saying what you have to do to become a citizen, right? So it's not. You can't say it's not fair to this other person. You know, it's not fair to the person who has become a citizen that this other person can stay in the country without being a citizen.
No.
Yeah, that's exactly what you said.
No, I'm not. I'm saying if you assume that you've read all of these items, and I agreed with you, I said they should be required to do all of that in order to become a citizen. Imagine someone who did not do one of those items. That's one individual. This other individual, meantime, who has followed all of those rules, all of them, has become citizen. So if that person gets in without completing that program, it's not fair to this individual. Do you understand?
Yes, I mean that's
what
the whole dilemma actually. At the
What you're saying is this other person that didn't follow all the rules, and those rules are very specific right now, they're not going to be a citizen. They can't be a citizen.
Not until they fulfill it.
No, right, not until they
So
fulfill
we
it.
agree.
But
So somebody who, what you're saying is somebody who had to wait in line to get here and then did all the things, they can become a citizen, as opposed to this other person who came in without
Fulfilling all of the requirements.
without papers, and has been here for a long time, has
And-
basically fulfilled all of those
Other-
things.
mhm.
They have the opportunity to become a citizen, and
As a
that's
ma-
exactly what our grandparents did.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's
So-
that.
But
So what you're saying
I
is-
think the requirements are a little bit different then.
None of our grandparents should have ever
I
been a
have,
citizen.
for example,
Well, no, but
no.
they still can.
He can't. He should be,
Yeah.
but you and I shouldn't.
No, I think I think there has to there even during your grandparents' time,
Yep.
they did. Excuse me. They did have some kind of sponsorship here
Yes.
yes,
because that was
Very
that
important.
was the whole idea of Ellis Island. And the port cities, they would bring people in. People would come in. They had some kind of a sponsorship here, And even then, they used to send back people. Even from Ellis Island, they would put them back
That's
on
correct.
a ship and send them back. So, but where it did not apply was those people who came early on in 90s, 1750s, 1760s, who were British subjects when it was not United States, when it was actually, as I was pointing out earlier, that it was actually in Article 1 of Constitution actually tells the Congress to formulate laws who can stay here and who cannot. That's how we got the Naturalization Act of 1790. So that has been enunciated right there, that naturalization is only possible. A person who becomes an American is only allowed for those people who are supposedly free white people.
Right, and I guess what I'm saying is, thanks be to God, we've come a long way since
Yes,
then.
but that's what you are saying.
Absolutely,
Have you ever
because
been to Ellis Island?
otherwise,
I have not.
No, I
have not.
I have.
I
And
have.
it's
Otherwise-
fascinating. It really is. Have you been there?
what's
Ellis
that?
Island.
No, I have not been to Ellis
It's
Island.
quite an experience, really.
But, yeah.
I can remember as a young, probably 15, 16-year-old kid, jerk, person, whatever, going to New York, talking about sponsorship.
Yes.
And I can remember I don't know what the authority was. I don't think it was the police. It must have been someone from the ship or someone from that particular program. But they would not let my two cousins off of the ship. And I remember the ship until my father in particular, went up and proved that he was the sponsor for them, that he was going to take responsibility
Yes.
for them. So sponsorship was critical
Mm-hmm.
in those days. Now it's changed.
Now also it is the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not this one, but for legal immigration, it is still the same thing. You have to have somebody. You have to make sure that you do not become a public ward.
Right.
You're supposed to be. You're supposed to make sure you earn a living and support yourself and your family, and then you are allowed, given a visa to come in.
Did you experience that?
Yes. I mean, you can't come in just, I will walk, unless
Were
you're a
you able to
tourist.
speak English when you came?
Of course I was.
Just teasing you.
No, but to come back to the point here, that this is where you do need the sponsorship. You can't just walk
Yeah,
in.
no,
I mean,
exactly.
as a tourist, you can come in. That's where the problem comes in.
Yeah.
People come in as tourists, and then they
Yeah.
disappear.
They disappear.
And that is where the immigration people have to enforce the
Yeah.
laws.
What
That's
is-
the problem.
What is this big argument that we keep hearing about? And I don't want to get off topic here, but with regard to voting, and they say that now you're insisting that they have to register to vote. Is that part of am I reading it correctly?
Yeah, you have to register to vote, but you have to be a citizen before you can register.
Before you
Yes.
can register.
Of course.
Right,
You can't
yeah.
vote if you're not a citizen.
Yeah.
As a
But-
green
but-
card holder, you cannot
yeah,
vote.
Now, this is federal, this program that you've read.
Yeah. It should
Okay.
be-
Where does the state come in? When does the state say, or can the state say, well, no, we allow our citizens, they don't have to have identification, for example?
Did you say citizen or did you say resident? Because in,
I
in,
said,
in some
I
cases,
intended resident.
in some cases, states allow residents to vote in city elections and town elections and state elections, but not federal.
Even though they are not citizens? I didn't
Even-
know that.
Yes, some
No.
Local.
No,
I
don't think so.
Yes, this was, I heard it recently, within the past 2 days, where there were some states who wanted to, I forget which state it was, they wanted to be able to vote locally only.
Yeah.
If they were immigrants, and I guess if they're in the process of becoming citizens, to vote, yes.
No, but as a green card holder, you cannot vote. You cannot register.
But that's my question is, where does the state's authority end or begin with regard to the federal requirements?
But the initial Naturalization Act of 1790 allowed the resident of the state to register, and then it was local authority that bestowed citizenship, and then they automatically became U.S. citizens.
That's different.
But this is more advanced.
What he's talking about, and I believe it's true, is that in some states and in some towns, even within a state, but not necessarily the entire state, they allow residents to vote, because there's so many residents who are not citizens, and they're paying taxes, and they should have some kind of a voice as to what's happening in that town.
Have you heard that recently?
Within
I
the
just heard it within
the last
today
several
or yesterday.
within the last several years.
No, I'm talking about just the last.
Well,
I heard it on the news. But anyway,
I'm saying
that's exactly what.
I'm saying
yeah.
it was
So
with,
the states can rule at the very local
or
level.
town.
Town, I should say. Okay.
Yeah,
So the federal, but you cannot vote federal level.
you cannot vote federally.
All this information about becoming a citizen and so forth. Have we in the past been getting this information out to people who are coming over and say that they are interested in becoming citizen? And is the information given the same? Is the same information given out about how one becomes a citizen?
Yeah, I would think so. That's a federal obligation.
It's an obligation, but how is there papers that are signed?
Yes, given the internet era, all the information is available on the internet from U.S. government. And you can
you're saying
access
the internet, but
yes,
so many people were. So many people.
Let's just say it was 30 years ago.
Internet. Yeah.
For her question.
Yeah, you can go to the embassy. You could go to the embassy, and while you are doing visa applications, you could actually, if you had intentions, you could investigate. You could get literature, because that literature.
At some point, you may begin to make application if you're serious about becoming a citizen. I'm sure that then they would present you with everything you have to do.
Yes, because it's not easy to become a citizen. No. It's not easy to get an immigrant card either, but it takes a long time. And you need all the literature.
Getting back to language, I know that there are a lot of local organizations who really try to make an effort to help people of their own cultural persuasion to learn enough of the language before they go in and apply for. I've seen, I'm sure you have too, a lot of organizations at the local level, which is good. Are these requirements adequate?
You're talking about requirements, and I'm talking about philosophical discussion. And
well, okay, philosophically, you have delineated pretty much what the.
I've delineated some of the things that I think are two-way streets.
So what are some of the other things that is helpful? Okay.
The four of us are here talking so that if somebody has another bright idea or 5 more bright ideas, we're certainly willing to entertain them.
No, I thought you covered all aspects of it pretty well.
But you do have. I'll just raise an example here. For example, how do you address this format to the Hasidic Jewish population in New York, who insist on speaking Yiddish?
Well, it's not just that population. There are lots of different pockets around. Let's see.
They insist on speaking, but they know English.
Exactly. Exactly. They use Hasidic, perhaps in their religious function or whatnot, but that doesn't mean they don't know English.
Yes.
I'm not
So,
very clear about
well,
that.
for purposes
Yes.
of conversation, let's assume that they do. That would be
Yeah,
the answer.
that would
Now,
be
if
answer.
you're saying, well, what if they don't?
What if they
then
don't?
then they go right back into. They should
Okay.
go back in line, and at some point they have to learn the
I
thing,
mean,
and that's true for every
I
culture.
mean,
Well,
that's what actually
Here's
was.
the example. You know, two citizens who spoke English, but they have a child, and the only thing they hear in the house all their life, and in all the people that they associate with, is the
Foreign
blah
language.
language. You know,
Yeah.
let me not
Yeah.
be specific.
Yeah,
Um,
I have heard that.
And I think that's a function of, quote, education. There's,
Yes.
there's a responsibility of education.
Yes.
If somebody is going to be homeschooled, they must
Yes.
homeschool them
Yeah.
in English also.
Yeah,
Yes.
I heard that very case in a Somali family, I think in Wisconsin,
Oh,
where
yeah.
the child heard only the language. I don't even know what the language of Somalia is.
Somali.
Somali.
Let's be civil.
At any rate, the child heard only what their mom, dad, uncle, aunt, you know, because there's a community of Somalis in there, and they had a problem when he got to school. He couldn't understand anything. They had to, and I suspect that we may even have a little bit of that right here in Burlington. When I heard Dr. Conti say that 43 different dialects, that's unbelievable.
That's a lot.
I said, my question was, well, how do you accommodate them? He said, well, we try to bring in people who will be willing, who are capable of helping certain groups. They're not full-time teachers. They come in and just work with that
As
particular group.
community
Yeah.
members.
Community members are people that they actually hire from outside, is the impression I got. I never realized here in Burlington of all, I find that astounding. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that either. So this is an interesting tidbit
Yeah.
there. But at
I
the
mean, I
same-
know, for example, we have 2 or 3 enclaves of people that are here from different countries. From I think there's a good group of Indians. There's another group of Pakistanis. I've met some of them. Very nice. But to go to 43, that's quite a jump.
But they would, I would imagine, anybody coming from South Asia, they would not have any trouble speaking English
Why?
because it is almost a native language. English, for example, in India.
Did you hear? Do you remember? Did you hear English at all when you were in Kashmir?
Yes.
Where?
When I was
Radio?
born. No, when I was born, my dad spoke English.
Oh, well, you had it. Okay.
My everybody else spoke English. I mean, I will tell you another example. The
What is
old
the official language of Kashmir?
official native language of Kashmir is Kashmiri.
Is what?
Kashmiri,
Kashmiri.
but people, grandmothers speak Kashmiri, and but you will hear you will be able to understand most of it because they throw in English words in there. How does that go?
I'll tell you how. I've been to Italy.
Okay.
I have relatives in a very remote area of southern Italy. I was amazed when I went there and I heard my uncle and I heard a couple of the young people use English words. They were trying to impress me,
Yes.
of course, you know. And I was amazed.
Yes.
Where do they get this? Now you I mean, communications today, telecommunications are just everywhere.
Yeah.
You pick it up. I would never have guessed that.
Well,
And you
I-
came here how long ago? Just a guess. You don't have to be
50
10.
years? Well, no.
20, 30? Okay.
40,
Oh, it's been a while.
More than 40
It's been a
years.
while.
But I will tell you. I will tell you another thing which may interest you. When I was a child,
20 years ago.
yeah, maybe 10 years ago, my mother used to tell me bedtime stories in Kashmiri, and the stories were about the Cyclops.
Oh, yeah, I remember. Yeah.
She had not.
Cyclops.
I about Trojan horse, and it was only after I grew up, so called, then I realized where did she get that from?
I don't know. Where did she get it
How
from?
am I supposed to know?
Yeah. Well, it could have been something that she
Alexander
read.
the Great.
Alexander, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Something
but
that she, I mean,
she,
you know.
she said she we used to, that was part of the bedtime story she would tell. And it's only later that I found out, wow, this is Trojan's horse, and this is Cyclops, and she told all kinds of stories. I forgot most of them.
Yeah, that's
children,
literature.
Yeah, now children, even though the language, they may speak the language of where their parents came from in their home, they have an opportunity to learn because they turn on the television.
Yes.
And do all these technology,
Yes.
and they are able to pick up English.
Yes.
Many of them.
And now English is almost universal.
Universal. It is universal. It really is. It has run away with everything. It's incredible. I remember visiting the city, the ancient city of Ephesus in Turkey. And they showed us the long walk, a lot of old buildings. It was a fascinating area, but they showed us the library. And the library had books that were not only Latin, but were Italian, old Italian. These are, I mean, this is old. These are books that go way, way back, all information. So even there, as remote as the world was at that time, still there was an awareness. Now you throw in television and throw in telecommunications in general, my God, where do we go? Do we all speak this bastardized English in another 20 years, the whole world?
What do you mean by bastardized? English
because you take something from every culture and you make it English.
No, but you have to recognize you can't read Shakespeare the way he wrote. The same. It's not the same English.
However, and I agree. However,
and read Chaucer, for example.
I mean, Chaucer, yes.
And then you will come to know that this is entirely different.
I took a course, speaking of Chaucer, I took a course, and the professor was an English major, he was from England, and he insisted that if we were going to participate in a class, and it was about Chaucer, we had to read it according to the way Chaucer read it. And he started himself, and he showed us how, and he insisted on it, and it was quite an experience. But anyway, I think it's inevitable, and maybe that's good. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's good.
It's a dynamic, evolving language. That's if the language is alive, it has to grow.
Yes.
And in order to grow, it is going to take up words.
Every language is
Every
alive.
Language, yes. If the language is alive.
It is alive.
Yes. Yeah. If the language is not alive.
Oh, you mean like one that has? But those aren't used. Really.
I mean, that means they don't grow.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. There are a lot of languages that are dying because they're not growing.
Yes, there are. That's true. That's very true.
Dead languages like Latin is quote a dead language. It doesn't change.
Yes.
But what you're talking about, though, the changing of English, words from the song My Fair Lady, why can't the English teach their children how to speak? The French know their French, the Greek know their Greek. In America, they haven't heard it for years.
Whenever I have a chance to, I still try to teach, but I impress myself with, I shouldn't say it that way, I always feel good about being able to point out words that come into English from another language. Like so much out of German and a lot out of Spanish and out of Italian, out of French and whatnot.
They're all Indo-European languages.
Indo-European, yes.
Yes.
Yep.
But many countries are, as you said earlier, teaching English as a second language. For example, I have traveled to Denmark for 40 years, and it's amazing that one can go over in Copenhagen and just walk the street, and people hear me speaking English, for example, and they come up to me and start speaking English to make sure that I'm comfortable with
they understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so English is an appropriate language, but hopefully this will help bring all the cultures together. If one can understand different, not only English, but hear different languages.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I did talk about, listed, is community. And people shouldn't come here and be in an enclave where they're
Exactly,
where
I
they don't
agree.
have exposure. They really need to be exposed and participate in the rest of the communities that they're in.
That is, I'm sure you're aware, that's one of the biggest problems that I think they're facing in Europe right now, is that people of different cultures, and they stay within their culture. They don't participate. So yes, so far as we here in America is concerned, I think it's critical that they do get out and get involved in what's going on with the everyday Americans. Where do you think we're going here in America with regard to immigration? I mean, do you think we're going to continue to grow?
Well, there is
if we want the economy to grow, we ought to seriously consider continuing to grow. The economy is not going to grow if we don't have people to work.
I mean, you don't.
And the current philosophy of getting rid of people to make things better is, in my opinion, is foolhardy.
I mean, that's going to take us to where Europe is, where Japan is, because Japan is aging. I don't know where they are going. Europe is aging, and now they have an onslaught of immigrants, unwanted. And then again, there's enclaves. But good thing in the United States is that there is a willingness of the immigrants to streamline and become mainstream, and then also willingness of the immigrants or immigrant children to jump in and participate in the political system. I mean, you have first-generation people, second-generation people who come in and participate at town level, at Senate level, at the Congress level. I mean, you had Terminator, the governor, and what else you want? We had Michael Dukakis here, who was our governor. I mean, in the same way, you have everybody here. You can't have an Elon Musk suddenly show up here. Elon Musk came from South Africa or Canada or wherever he came from. I mean, that's exactly what you're saying. So you do have, unless we continuously infuse new blood into the country, we will not keep our country at the forefront of innovation. That is critical. You can't. I mean, how did we snuff out the World War II? It was only because there was the building of the atomic bomb, and a lot of people who were involved in that, they were not born here. They came from outside the country. You had Fermi, you had Szilard, you had the other big names in there. They were all from outside. Einstein, they were all from outside.
It's funny. I'm thinking of this gentleman who was running for the U.S. Senate from here, from Massachusetts, and one of the points that he made that I really hadn't thought of, and the question was, how do you address the debt, the national debt? And he said, well, we don't have enough people paying in order to garner enough tax money so that we can begin to pay it down. And he mentioned immigration and the Americanization of immigration and workers. But like everything in life today, there's a good side and there's a bad side. You say immigration, bring people in, and then you hear them talking about automation, and so many jobs in here. They're talking today. I heard a discussion about warehouses. There are about, I think they said there was 7 or 8 million people who work in warehouses. And the person they were interviewing said, well, yeah, but the warehouses are now putting in automation. So those in 2 or 3 years, 4 years, those 6-7 million people. So I don't know.
Will be taken over by drones.
I don't know. I think one of us should run for office.
Of course.
I really do.
But the key point there is that no matter what you do, automation is going to happen and is happening.
Yes,
I mean,
definitely.
I mean,
How do you prepare for it?
well, you prepare.
How do you offset it?
Well, you have, for example, I just brought up the name of Elon Musk. He is trying to come up with trucks that are automated trucks. So all the truck drivers are out.
I can't wait for
what
the
do you-
day when they deliver a pizza to my house with a
Drone.
Drone?
the drone. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting you brought up the national debt. The national debt, it was basically caused by the tax cut in 2001, 2, and 3 by President. And basically what it did is it took $600 billion and gave it to corporations and extremely wealthy people every year. So from 16 years and what, $600 billion, what, 6 times 6, 16, what's that?
256.
I think
No.
there's enough blame to go around, but how do we get rid of it? That's the key.
Well, what you do is you, in the tax reform that that Trump wants, instead of giving another $1 trillion a year, you should just simply get rid of the Bush tax cuts, and then we can try to balance a budget. And if in 2000, when that president left, the national debt was 5.9 trillion, and now it's 20, 21.
20 and running.
Yeah, and if you give $600 billion a year of the taxes that we should be getting every year,
I don't know, and you're
That's
probably
$10 trillion.
most likely correct. It's one of the things that really bothers me. It has me worried, and I really wish that someone would. And I don't hear politicians talking about it. At any rate, we're getting off into
what we really need to do is do exactly the opposite, and we have to run the government at a $250 billion profit, not a loss, and by
take that money and apply it.
and put it into the Treasury to get rid of the national debt, and by 2060 we should be almost done with it.
2060.
60.
Wow.
But that means there has to be a plan. Then otherwise you
Yeah.
can.
So
We won't even be here.
You know?
Celebrate.
actually it's by 2060 we should be down around where we were when.
Do we have the will?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. I agree.
And
I
certainly
agree.
not one person
Which
in
is-
Washington has that will.
Pardon me?
Not one person in Washington has
As
that
that will, exactly.
Because we really have to work on trust. That's one of the issues in this country right now. We got to decide to work with each other and trust each other. If we bring over immigrants for specific jobs, we need to work with them and really show them how they become citizens. And if English is the language that they need to speak, let that be known in the beginning. Now, I know presently we're headed toward not letting anyone come over if they don't speak the language. But there are certain positions that we need help. And we need to recognize that we need the help. And so I'm saying that we need to come together and work together as people.
An example right there is that a lot of farm workers. Do you really need them to speak English? And they come in as migrant workers, but some of them may want to stay. And what mechanism would your proposal have to make them eligible? Maybe again train them in English, teach them English, if they wanted to go through this path.
Well, number one, they could come in and get this, what I call a blue card, so they have the right to work.
Yeah, right now they get the migrant worker card or something.
And then not during their working hours, but during their non-working hours, they should be taking English classes. Now, if they're only here for 4 months a year or something like that during the harvest, I can understand that they may not want to do that. And you know, when they leave, they give up their blue card, and you know, the next season they have to do the same thing all over again. And I think that's what a lot of the migrant workers are doing. Alabama had a very strict rule that no migrant workers would work, and the farmers went ballistic because all of their produce was rotting on the vine. There was nobody to pick it. So they quickly changed their mind and salvaged something.
How do you feel about the young man who comes over and is willing to serve in the military? He is exempt, I think, from some of the requirements if he stays in the military for three years, I think, is minimum that he has to join for.
I thought Bush had written an executive order that immediately they can get citizenship.
Oh, is it immediately?
That's what Bush had signed, the executive
Okay.
order. But then Congress, I think, changed it to 3 years. If,
Okay.
I'm not sure which one is
But I
really
mean,
working
what
right now.
happens if they don't speak English? They go in the service. They go
If they
directly
don't
in the
speak
service.
English, they're going to have a very difficult time in the service
Yeah.
because all of the orders are given in
Yeah.
English.
Yes,
I don't know how they
So-
handle that now.
Basically, what it was is it's people who were born here and from undocumented parents, grew up and then joined the service, and when they got out,
So they've already learned English.
oh yeah,
but the people who were born here, they are already citizens. This program was meant for
I'm
people
sorry.
who were not.
Let me refine it. They were born in a different country. Their parents came undocumented,
That's good.
so they didn't have the they didn't have the automatic. So then they joined the service, and when they got out of the service, that after the quote 3 years, they would immediately become a citizen. However, their parents who were undocumented, once the individual became a citizen, the parents could be sent back. I mean, that's insane.
Yes, that's probably your formula is going to fix that.
Yeah.
Okay. Hypothetical case. An individual comes here, is on the track for, he gets a blue card, he's on the track to become a citizen, and then gets in trouble. Serious trouble. Should he be? I guess it depends on the severity of the.
So he gets in
particular-
serious trouble just like a citizen does.
Pardon me?
Just like a citizen does.
He should be treated that way. Is that what you're saying? I'm sorry.
Well, no. You said he gets in serious trouble because then the next thing you say is he should be sent back.
No, that's my question. Should he? To what extent? If he's killed someone, an automobile accident, for example, and someone has died, then I would suspect that probably should go back. If it's something like robbery, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what happens.
But I mean, at this time, you can deport a non-immigrant or an immigrant visa holder if they commit a crime. That applies to illegal aliens as well. But as a person who is a citizen, you can't throw them out. Unless they have falsified their so-called papers,
Documents,
documents. Then you can have a huge, long process. That's what they did for some of those Nazi guards or something.
Yeah.
Long process for that.
Once again, if I'm going too far afield, you tell me. How do you feel about sanctuary cities?
If you can tell I'm far left, even though I'm on. Actually, for the TV audience now, it looks like I'm on the left, which is exactly where I belong. But sanctuary cities, if somebody hasn't committed a crime, then leave them alone. They're productive, for heaven's sake.
So let the sanctuary city go.
Yes.
Well, I agree with you.
Absolutely.
I agree.
You know,
We
I
can-
mean,
But what if you have a mixture of people? You have, you know, you have one in the crowd of 1,000 that has committed a crime, be it a
that
serious
person-
crime or
if
whatnot.
he's committed,
individualized.
if he's committed,
Sanctuary city, he is protected.
no, he's not protected.
He's arrested by the city.
He's arrested by the he's arrested by the city. He's got a crime, and that he serves time.
Well,
Okay.
that's what is actually happening right now in sanctuary cities. They are preventing the immigration people from collecting them. I don't know why that stands.
They're preventing.
I'm kind of bothered by
They-
that.
You know, you get a traffic ticket. There and
They're not holding
yeah,
the person.
it's not a serious crime.
Yes,
And,
well, that's a different problem. Yes.
right. And ICE wants to know who you are, and so they can deport you. But if you know, somebody commits a serious crime, you know, a felony, let's call it a felony, then I have mixed emotions about whether we deport them or not, or send them to jail.
But at the same time, so what you are then saying is, it is okay to have sanctuary cities in contravention to the immigration laws.
Exactly.
I think so, because you know, how many people in, you know, let me take an arbitrary, in Bedford, are,
I don't know.
you know,
I mean,
are illegal. I just chose
Are
Bedford.
you a citizen of Bedford before you're a citizen of the state of Massachusetts, before you are a citizen of the United States? Which holds the priority? In my mind, it's a citizen of America. So if you're a citizen of America and you commit a crime in a sanctuary city, you should go.
to jail.
I don't think the city has the right to hold anyone if they've committed a crime. If they haven't committed a crime, you can call it sanctuary, you can call it whatever, religious, anything you want. But as soon as a crime is committed, that is jurisdiction of the United States of America. I
But
think.
Well, there's felonies, and then there's
Felony is what I'm talking about.
so
to be a
that's
citizen. You
not
have to be have to be a citizen of the United States.
Right.
no, but without being a citizen,
So you know,
Who
you,
holds
If,
the-
if
you tried to
you're
make
not a citizen,
You are not
and
a citizen.
commit a crime, are you committing that crime in the face of the United States of America, or are you committing a crime in the face of the town of Bedford that we use?
it's irrelevant. It's a crime.
Well, that's where it
Okay,
becomes.
so he should be. So sanctuary city means nothing insofar as if there's a crime involved.
Yeah,
A felony.
If there's a felony, I mean, if it's a, you know, you parked in a no parking zone, and
No, that's not.
you know, you
I do that.
your meter, the meter ran out, you know, and you got a ticket for a meter maid.
I don't think anyone is really worried about that. The small, it's the big crimes.
Actually, the entire population is worried about that.
Yeah, for illegal immigrants, that's where the major problem is.
Wait a minute, I didn't follow that.
The undocumented population, the entire undocumented population, is worried about if they are just found out, the police department will send them to ICE. That's what they're worried about.
As well they should be, if they're undocumented.
Okay, so you want to deport everybody?
No, I want to deport I don't want to deport. Well, whatever the government. I am not going to decide. I want the government to decide if someone has created an undocumented person has created a crime. That should be the jurisdiction of America.
All right.
And how do you determine the crime? Do they have
Well,
a court of peers or just
no, the local police would have to. The local police, and I would imagine they work in tandem with the ICE authorities to determine what is a crime. If they, if it's a terrorist crime, if they wanted to blow up something, if they kill someone, if you had an automobile accident and you ran over a child, that's pretty serious.
Yeah.
I would
yes.
think that
What if
the point is they can't be protected.
what if a crime happened in your neighborhood and you report it? Should you be deported?
If you report it?
Just report it.
Oh no.
That's
Why?
what they're worried about.
Yeah.
Who is?
All of the undocumented.